Get ready to hear the truth about America on a show that's not immune to the facts with your host, Dan Bongino.
All right, welcome to the Dan Bongino Show. Producer Joe, how are you today?
Feeling groovy, Dano. Way to go.
Man, what a... folks, it's just for my loyal listeners out there and the folks who listen to the show occasionally, I really appreciate your support, but I need you now more than I've needed you in a while. Don't mean to be hyperbolic or melodramatic. No need for unnecessary emotion in this, but for some reason... Actually, I think we all know the reason. There's been this nonstop assault going on conservative thought on social media and elsewhere, and there's been efforts ongoing for a very long time to silence conservatives. Yep. My Twitter account last night got banned from promoting ads. No one will give us a reason why.
What?
Yeah, Joe. So I'm going to go into this a little bit during the show. I've also been under attack for basically every media appearance I do on the firearm and Second Amendment issue. It happened again last night. People, they're just making things up now, a lot of these reporters. And folks, they're using the emotions surrounding this tragedy to really silence people who have a voice in this and want to really are genuinely interested in fixing this problem. And folks, it's disgusting. It's unbelievable what's happening. I'll give you some details during the show. I do need your help, and I'm going to ask something of you if you don't mind during the show today. I'm sorry if I sound a little discombobulated, but it's been a long night for me with my wife trying to go through my Twitter account and figuring out what was so wrong. And we genuinely, folks, we're not like playing dumb with you. I can't figure it out. The only thing I can figure out we did wrong is we're conservatives, and there's a serious viewpoint discrimination going on over Twitter and in other places, but it's just getting really, really troubling. All right, folks, today's show brought to you by our buddies at FilterBuy. Thank you to all our sponsors who keep the show free. I do appreciate it. Their website's filterbuy.com. That's filterbuy.com. Folks, it's cold out there. Your HVAC system's working overtime. You got to keep those filters clean. If you don't, like I didn't when I moved in my house, I tell Joe this story all the time. I blew out both of my air conditioning units because I had filters that were basically made of concrete because they had so much dust and junk in there. Check out filterbuy.com. They make their products right here in the United States. And the nice part about FilterBuy is if you set up auto delivery with them, you'll get 5% off. You can save money. You can save time. Keep those filters clean. Keep that HVAC system in pristine condition. Let the air flow through it. Get those pollen particles, allergy aggravating pollutants and mold out of the air. They have 600 plus filter options there. They can custom option them all the way up to hospital grade filtration in the air. Check out filterbuy.com. That's filterbuy.com. Again, if you set up auto delivery, you'll get 5% off. It's a really great company. I talk to them a lot. They're really good to their customers too. Go check them out. If you have an air filter for a commercial location or your house, go to filterbuy.com. That's filterbuy.com. All right, so what happened here? Last night, I'm at CPAC. For those of you who are coming down, I was coming down from New York. I had a really busy day yesterday. I don't give you all a lot of behind the scenes because this is an hour show, and Joe and I are very concerned about giving you quality content in a short period of time. But that's why I don't go into a lot of personal stories. But the personal story in this case is the story. So I was really busy yesterday. I was up at Fox, and I was doing a lot of media appearances. I did one in the morning for Fox and Friends, and I did Brian Kilmeade's radio show up at Fox News Radio. I then came down and did Outnumbered. I then jumped on a train back to D.C. and went right to the Tucker Carlson studio. For those of you who don't know, Tucker Carlson studio, Fox is in D.C. The rest of those places, Outnumbered and Fox and Friends, are up in New York. So to say I had a really busy day yesterday would be an understatement. Again, it was great. I don't like whiny snowflakeism. It was a good day, but it was busy.
Right.
I say that because it's really tough, folks, to go on the air. Basically, yesterday, between phoners, I did 2 phone interviews 4 or 5 times, and to say the same thing in different ways. Do you get what I'm saying, Joe?
Yeah.
I mean, Joe's been in the radio business a long time, and you know what I'm saying, Joe, right? I mean, you get a guest on who's a frequent guest on your radio show there in the morning at WCBM, and what makes a good guest is you learn how to say the same thing in different ways to keep people interested in fresh content. Make sense?
Yeah.
I bring this up, folks, because this is difficult. We're talking about unbelievably difficult topics right now. what happened down in Parkland is not easy to talk about when 3 million people are watching in prime time and during the morning, and millions are listening on the radio. And in a case of Joe and I and our podcast program here, millions of people a month. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to do this all the time. It's especially difficult to do it when what you say and what you're going to say, you know, is not going to be popular, but you believe is right. Joe and I don't say things here, and we don't take positions because we believe they're politically advantageous. We say things because we think they're right, and we think we're defending first principles and real principles and your liberty. Having said that, I am a contributor for NRA TV. That's not a secret. I said it on Outnumbered. We said it on Fox. It's on my Twitter handle. It's not a secret. It's not meant to be a secret. I'm happy to do it. I enjoy working there. But every time I go on television to talk about what happened in Parkland and propose something that I believe is an actual fix to the problem, and I also discuss things which I think are obstacles to solving the problem, I find myself under absolutely relentless attack by media hacks who just cannot they cannot stand an opposing view. Right. Joe, the only acceptable view right now, and I haven't told Joe any of this, the only acceptable view right now, the only thing you are allowed to say is gun control, gun control, gun control. And if you don't say it, you are to be ostracized. You are to be shut up. Right. And you are to be, in effect, media shadow banned. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's everywhere, folks. It's Mediaite. It's the Daily Beast. I'm not going to link to their articles, but here's what happened. So last night I was on Tucker's show, and I did an appearance on the show, and we were talking about the student protests. And no matter what you say, Joe, they will destroy, convolute, and tear up your words and make it sound like you're saying something you're not. Yeah. Tucker and I were absolutely, Joe, crystal clear. You can watch the hit yourself. It's up there. I'm sure somebody has it somewhere. Just Google Tucker Carlson, Dan Bongino. And on the hit, we specifically made the point that the kids who were involved in this unbelievable incident. I mean, I remember, because I can't even imagine what it must have been like. How they absolutely have the right, of course, to speak up. Matter of fact, I made the point that their voices would be very valuable in this, especially with regard, Joe. I mean, let's watch the hit with regard to missed signals. Don't you think, Joe, like if you wanted to find out what was wrong with a kid in a high school and how the FBI and the local sheriff's department missed all the signs, who do you want to talk to, Joe? You want to talk to the kids he was surrounding with. These kids and teenagers that were involved in this have an unbelievably valuable voice. I simply made the point that what I find odd in the media, and again, just watch the hit, folks. Watch the appearance. Sorry, using media jargon here. I made the point, Joe, that I think, ironically, the media is focusing more on these teenagers and their take on supply-side gun control measures, which is, as I said, verbatim, a complicated and layered issue, where I think it requires you to study what happened in Australia, what happened when they've instituted gun bans, what happened with the assault weapons ban in the Clinton administration. These are complicated issues. They're relying on these teenagers, and that they're using them to advocate for an agenda.
Yes, they are. On
that end, and which is fine. Let me be crystal clear. These kids have beyond a right to speak out. They've been through something horrible. But they're not focusing on where I think these kids could be of enormous benefit, which is how all these signs were missed. What did these kids see in Cruz? They're not focusing on any of that. And the point I was trying to make is this isn't the kids' agenda. The kids can say and should say whatever they feel like saying right now. I was simply making the point that the media is minimizing that end of it to advance their agenda, Joe, not the kids' agenda. These teenagers are not. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And what I find odd is when it comes to other situations where victims of crime have a voice, the media is really not interested in their story. In other words, Joe, think about victims of terrorism, victims of crime from illegal immigrants. Do you see them? I mean, these families don't get the voice and the platform. I mean, to the extent I'm sure they've been interviewed. I don't want to do what the media doesn't and lie about it. But are they getting the platform that other victims? And I just find it interesting. It's not a knock on anyone other than the media for hypocritically saying one thing and doing another. That was the point I was trying to make. Sorry, I got to get some water, folks. It's been a long night, and I'm just like really bothered. Now, what happened after that? So after that relentless assault, wake up to that nonsense. Last night, I'm dealing with Twitter. What happened? I mean, how many times have I promoted my account on Twitter and Twitter in general endlessly, especially when I'm in for Mark Levin? I find out last night that sometimes we run ads on the on Twitter for our show to promote the content of the show. It's like Facebook ads and Twitter. It's part of our marketing budget. Mm-hmm. I get an email last night, Joe. Again, I didn't tell Joe any of this. By the way, on a lighter note, that is some outfit you get on there.
What,
Joe has like a V-neck Elvis-looking Fonzie T-shirt on with his Elvis hair and there's strings of hair hanging down the front of his face. Yeah. I'm telling you, you look like the gravy sweating Elvis right now.
Well, thank you very much anyway.
Thank you. Sorry, folks. I got to lighten up. I mean, I've had such a rough night. But I find out this morning, Joe, that our account is now ineligible to run ads. And it says for inappropriate content. What? What is right? Of course, I didn't tell you because I always prefer a genuine reaction on the show. Folks, I looked through my entire account. I don't know what they're talking about. I genuinely have no idea. And I lost about 5,000 followers last night. So I'm going to ask you a favor. If you could tweet at Jack, Jack. He is the Twitter CEO, and at Twitter support. I would appreciate them, you asking them why, in fact, we're prevented from running ads. And I'm going to ask you another favor. And I please, folks, I know this sounds very self-serving, but it's really just a response to this. I've never asked you to do this before outside of just mentioning the account. But please follow my account on Twitter, because if we can't advertise our content while the liberals out there can say whatever they want, they can accuse us of being accomplices to murder. The NRA people will be accomplices to murder. They can accuse us of all kinds of vile and disgusting things, and we can't get our content out there because we're in fact shadow banned and prevented from advertising our content. Then it's over, folks. We're going to lose the social media war. So I'm asking you to please follow me. Please, if you wouldn't mind, recommend the account to others. It's the only way for us to I know it sounds self-serving. I entirely understand that. My apologies in advance. But I don't typically make this a part of the show. But I'm disappointed. I don't know what else to do. I can't fight that beast right now. I'd like to see Twitter go the way of MySpace personally, and I'd see another outlet that's fair and open. But right now there isn't one. That's it. And we have to fight on the platforms we have. And unfortunately, that's the only platform we have. Me, canceling my Twitter account's not going to do me any good, or you any good, or the conservative ecosystem any good.
Dan, now, I think our listeners would be happy to help out. I do. I think.
No, they're great.
I get that feeling just from the correspondences. I think they'd be glad to help out.
Yeah, you've seen the tweets and the emails even you get. What are you, at Joe Haas with a Z1?
Yeah. Yeah,
he's at Joe. Follow Joe too at Joe Haas1. No, I need your help, folks, on this. I would really deeply appreciate it. And let me just wrap this up by saying one last thing. I got an email last night, or actually yesterday afternoon. One of the more horrifying emails. I get a lot of email, folks. So typically, what I do is I read them. I promise, but I sometimes I have to kind of scan through to get to the point. Sometimes because there's just a lot of email that comes in. But I got one yesterday that was just heartbreaking. And, I can't verify the authenticity of it, but it certainly sounded, by all accounts and by the detail in it, to be somewhat legitimate. So I felt that passing it on would be appropriate to you all. It was from someone in Coral Springs. I'll leave out name, everything else, but obviously. And it was an account by someone who was there at the scene in a response mode. And the accounts of some of the kids running out with, how do you say it? Like pieces of other body parts, like on them from other kids it's hard to read. Folks, you can't read that without being deeply impacted. And that's why I say to you, I mean, why do you think we're doing this? Do you think I read that, and as a father myself, as a guy who dedicated his